Hey there, welcome to SQSR. Today we're going to answer A, B, C, D, F? What happened to E? The question sounds simple, so let's take a look at the response. If you went to school in the United States, you are undoubtedly familiar with the grade scale. 90 to 100 is an A, 80 to 89 is a B, 70 to 79 is a C, 60 to 69 is a D, and 59 and below is an F. Sometimes a modified scale gets used when something gets graded on a curve, but that's the basic idea. Grading scales, and grades in general, may feel like they were born with civilization, but they're actually a fairly recent invention. As far as I can tell, getting more granular than pass, fail, and you're my favorite student was invented in the United States during the period we don't often think about under the Articles of Confederation. Many sources credit Ezra Stiles, the then president of Yale, with creating tiered grades in 1785, though Ezra's scale was just 4 buckets: best, second best, lower, and worse. Well, except they were named in Latin, so optimi, second optimi, inferios, and pejores. The notion of ranking students and remarking as to who's in the top half of your class and the bottom half of the class did significantly predate that. But what makes Ezra's scale unique is that he didn't divide the grades equally amongst his 4 categories. His 58 students were divided into the 4 grades as 20, 16, 12, and 10. I need to pause here for a moment and put on the spectacles of speculation. Looking at those numbers, I can't help but notice the differences: 4, 4, and 2. That makes me wonder if he wanted a continually shrinking division instead of an even division. Pulling out some algebra, we see that 4 sets get the base value, x, 1 set gets 1 increment, y, the next gets 2 increments, and the last gets 3. So any solution to 4x plus 6y equals 58 with x and y as positive integers. That has integer solutions for all odd values of y, but y equals 3 looks close. 19, 16, 13, 10. Do you think it's possible that he accidentally labeled 1 too many as optimi and just made up for it by shrinking inferiores? Okay, for the next couple days at least, he's now who I'd want to meet if I got one time-traveling interview. Because maybe he didn't invent grading, but just funnel-shaped bucketing. And made a goof in the process. And we're back. Taking it as canon that Ezra Stiles invented grades, apparently the chaps at Harvard couldn't stand to be outdone by Yale. So by 1837, they invented a grading system that scored as 0 to 100, intending a bell curve centered on 50. Sources aren't clear as to what made for a passing or failing grade, but it had numbers. And I may be playing this rivalry up a bit too much. We are talking about a 52-year gap after all. Personally, I like that there was seemingly room at the top for excellence, as opposed to 100% just meaning you know what the curriculum says you should. For instance, if a second grader can already do 5th grade math, their score should be better than one who can only do 4th grade math, which should be better than one who merely knows what they've been taught. No? You know what? Agree or disagree? You know how comments work. Though actually I am given to understand that in the UK, an A is awarded for getting like a 70. So our friends across the pond clearly leave some room for exceptionalism at the top. Bravo. So far we have named grades and numbered grades, but not the combination we know and love or loathe today. Well, in 1896, a women's college in Massachusetts invented a grading scale where numerical scores, 95 to 100, were an A, 85 to 94 were a B, 76 to 84 were a C, Exactly 75 was a D, and lower than that was an E, which was considered failure. That school was Mount Holyoke College, and they claim to have invented the letter-based grading scale. Perhaps you fixated on the razor-thin D, but hopefully you noticed it ended at our missing letter, E. 2 years later, they added F and adjusted the scale to now have 6 grades. I assume, but couldn't confirm, that E passed at this point, unless they really just wanted to separate the almosts from the nopes. So, starting in 1898, we get F for fail, though passing still required a 75, not today's 60. Somewhere between 1898 and 1930, though, E dropped out. An article on Slate offers, apparently some professors worried that students would think the grade stood for excellent, since F stood for failure. That said, there is no evidence of similar concerns over, say, B, which might just as well stand for brilliant as bungled. Well, perhaps the author of that article never encountered different grading systems. I'm pretty sure that my physical education classes, also known as PE or gym, were just graded as S for satisfactory and U for unsatisfactory. That system is sometimes joined by a few friends, like I for incomplete, G for good, and yep, E for excellent. In fact, when discussing this topic with a friend, he said he thought he got E's in kindergarten. Where and when the ESU system started is less well documented. So maybe colleges using A to E for passing encountered students who'd just come from a system using ESU, and confusion set in. Or maybe ESU came later, and the confusion was just poor performers trying to placate their parents. Yeah, Ma, I got an E. It means excellent. So, there you have it. The first letter grade scale stopped at E. It gained F, and then, because 6 was too many, and F for fail was so good, or ESU confused people, or too many kids stretched the truth, or some other reason, F took over as the final and failing grade. But wouldn't it be funnier if it was just that it's too easy to turn an E into a B? See you next time for another simple question and simple response.